JavaScript is most commonly used to get or modify the content or value of the HTML elements on the page, as well as to apply some effects like show, hide, animations, and so on. But before you can perform any action, you need to find or select the target elements first. In the following sections, you will see some of the common ways of selecting the elements on the page and doing something with them using JavaScript. The topmost elements in an HTML document are available directly as document properties. For example, the HTML element, that is the root element, can be accessed with the document.documentElements property, whereas the head elements can be accessed with the document.head property, and the body elements can be accessed using the document.body property. Here's an example. So look at our script. To display lang attributes, the lang attribute value of the HTML elements, you simply say document.documentElements.getAttribute lang, and it's going to output the language of the HTML document. So to set the background color of the element, you can simply say documents.body.style.background, and then you say equal to the color that you want to change it to. To display the tag name of the head element's first child, you say document.first element's child.first element's child.node name, and it's going to output the first element that is inside our head element. That's the first child of the head element. Notice that we are using alert to output these values. So when you run this, you get a pop-up on your browser. But be careful, if the document.body is used before the body tag, that is if you place your script inside the head, it will return null instead of the body element. This is because the point at which the script is executed in the head element, at that point, the body tag has not yet been passed by the browser, so the document.body is truly not present, is truly null at that point. Let's look at the example below to better understand this. So in this example, the script is inserted in the head element, and this is going to output null because the body element has not been parsed yet at this point. This is why most times you want to put your script tag just before the closing body tag. Selecting elements by ID. You can also select an element based on its unique ID using the getElementsById method. This is the easiest way to find an HTML element in the DOM tree. The following example selects and highlights an element having the ID attributes of mark. So we assigned the ID of mark to this paragraph, and so to select that particular element, we simply say document.getElementsById, and then we pass the ID of that particular element, inserting it inside double quotes. So we created a variable match. Okay, and for the value, we said document.getElementsById. So what this variable is containing is that paragraph element, because document.getElementsById is simply saying look for the element that has the ID of mark and return it. So to highlight the elements background, we can simply say match, which is this particular element. So match.style.background, and then we change the color to yellow. The gets elements by ID method will return the elements as an object if the matching element was found, or it will return null if the matching element was not found in the document. Note: any element can have an ID attribute, but the value of this attribute must be unique within a page. That means no two elements should have the same ID on the same page. Similarly, you can use the get elements by class name method to select all the elements that are having specific class names. This method returns an array-like object of all the child elements which have all of the given class names. Let's check out the following example. So this first element, which is the paragraph, it has the class test. This div also has the test class. So if we now want to select all the elements that have that class of text, so we say var matches equals to document that gets all the elements that have the class name test. Okay, and then we want to display the selected elements count. That's the number of elements that have this this class. So we are saying document.write number of selected elements. Then this document.get elements by class name is going to return an array. And I remember that array can contain multiple values. So this get elements by class name returns an arrays of all the elements that have the class test. So when we now say matches.length, we're saying the array matches.length. So that will give us the number of elements that have that class. So matches 0. So this is saying get the first index, the first element that has that class, then change the font weight style property, change it to bold. I want to change the font weight of that element to bold. So this one is saying the full length, which should be 2. The full length minus 1. 2 minus 1 is 1. So look for the first index of this matches array and then change the font style to italic. You can play around with this code. You can just copy it, paste it to your index.html file in your VS Code, and then you run it in your browser to see how they work. You can also select elements by tag name using documents.get elements by tag name. This also returns an array-like object of all child elements given with the given tag name. You can also use query selector all method to select elements that match the specified CSS selector. CSS selectors provide a very powerful and efficient way of selecting HTML elements in a document. Please check out the CSS tutorial section to learn more about them. This method returns a list of all the elements that match the specified selectors. You can examine it just like an array as shown in the following example.